Second-hand clothes, electronics, and Ugandans are a perfect love story, decorated by plenty of cheap, accessible, and unique products. More to that is just how convenient it is to start up such a business. Beyond the unique bells that flock the capital lies a West frontier informed by both second-hand clothes and fast fashion. Dead stock and out-of-favor fabrics head to the famous mountain, Kitezi, while some are simply burnt. In the pit lane is a solution to support the circular economy, the Textile Waste Recycling Project by MTAC, West Aid, and UTA, and Kampala will be ground zero for the pilot.
This Uganda Circular Textile Project is going to give an opportunity to people with used clothes, which they would have otherwise thrown into the environment with all its effects.
It is a pilot project. We're focusing on recovering textiles from Owino Market primarily, working with Casita at Owino Market to trial approaches to recover materials that normally would end up in landfill.
All right, welcome to the Green Economy, basically the program that talks about sustainable development. So the discussions always are about sustainability. I'm Ivan Tivenkana, and this is Smart24 TV. Well, in this very episode, I remind you that on 30th March, it was the International Day in regard to zero waste. So we are looking at zero tolerance of waste. But that isn't the situation worldwide, be it in even the developed countries. So it's similar to the situation locally here in Africa and Uganda specifically. In this city, we are looking at about over 3.9 million people, transient population. And all these people, the passers-by, the drivers, and then the riders, all wear clothes. So basically, we are looking at second-hand clothes vis-a-vis the fast fashion. As we have the appetite for the nice clothes, how best can you look out in the public? You need to look decent. There is something, a collateral that comes with that. So as factories churn out millions and tons of cloth, there's a challenge that has cropped up. Textile waste is one of those, and it falls within the 30% composition, which isn't biodegradable. So while the 70% of the waste portfolio is biodegradable and can easily decompose, textile isn't one of those. Likewise, electronic waste isn't one of those. So the two, textile and electronic waste, fall within the 30% composition. And there are questions as to how we can basically deal with them. Now, as I talk right now, there is a certain development that has come through. When you look at the Ministry of Trade, when you look at West Aid, which is a UK-based company that basically tackles green growth, MTAC, and then Uganda Textile Association, they've come into a pact to look into the best ways to tackle textile waste by recycling or upcycling. So in this very episode, we are looking at the burden at hand and then the relative solutions to address it. So as we head into the main gist of the conversation, get ready to know how best can we tackle the textile waste, because we are looking at a challenge at hand. And when you look at the landfill that has been positioned to serve Kampala for the past 20 years, that's Kitezi. It's at its climax. So it can no longer take in the chunk that we are always feeding in there. We are talking about between 1,500 to 2,000 tons of waste on a daily basis heading to Kitezi. So the circularity program basically is looking at how best can we keep on utilizing the products that are generated into the economy. So textile and e-waste among those products. So basically, Kitezi won't be taking on any more chunk. Why? Because there is even a provision by the Ministry of Energy to turn the facility into a biogas facility, or basically plant, so that it can generate electricity. We're looking at 4.4 megawatts of energy. So textile waste becomes a misfit into that project. So let's get to it.
As marabou stocks and vultures enjoy their home, the city is tending to a certain pressure. The municipal solid waste portfolio is rich, ranging from food waste, polyethylene, effluent, plastics, textiles, and electronics, ending up at only one place, the West Mountain, which receives about 2,000 tons daily. As a response to the growing crisis, there is something going on in the pit lane. A certain pact is forging means to implement a circular economy, and today's focus strictly looks at both textile and electronic waste following recent developments to upcycle both. First, a dive into the textile waste recycling project, and later on, the Airtel-Badili partnership for electronic waste, both gearing towards repairing, refurbishing, and recycling existing materials and products. Textile waste falls within the approximately 30% waste composition, which is non-biodegradable. Perhaps this explains why it hasn't been a common factor in several discussions. Traditionally, it's thrown away into dump sites and landfills, sometimes recycled or upcycled, and somewhere simply burnt. With the former a common solution, Uganda is exploring the second option, recycling. The capital is home to the country's biggest businesses. That includes textile and electronic shops and other outlets, both new and used. For fabrics, tons make landfall in anticipation to meet fashion and dressing needs of the high-end, middle class, and the poor. There are good reasons why the second-hand clothes business booms in Africa. In legendary Owino market, Martin Mubiru plies his trade on a daily basis. He's just 3 years into the second-hand clothes business. Interaction with him explains better how the business flows and why Ugandans and second-hand fabrics are a perfect love story. Demand for the clothes is influenced by a couple of factors. Primarily, just how cheap they are. Unlike first-hand clothes that are expensive, second-hand fabrics are cheap and unique, therefore unmatched. Then there's the quality factor. Much of the imported second-hand clothes and other utilities come from outside Africa, and the latest information indicates China, together with other sources such as America and Europe, a situation that even prompted the president to institute a ban, although it simply focused on protecting the local industry. In the United Kingdom, for instance, about 336,000 tons of unwanted clothes are dumped every year. One of the simplest ways to keep them out of the dustbin is to be donated or sold for reuse. That's just where Sub-Saharan Africa and Uganda come into the equation. December and January are notable months where sales drop badly. So, the challenge in the name of dead stock pops up. It will end up somewhere, either bought to meet other needs or simply as waste. Many of these street vendors are into the second-hand clothes business. While some carry on throughout the day, many are effective in the evening when numbers retreat from work and have a penny to spend. There are takeaways from President Museveni's ban on imported second-hand clothes last year, which wasn't primarily addressing textile waste. The streets made their thoughts clear about it. First, a gap in policy implementation, just in case it would be taken as a potential solution. Top research indicates that about 40% of imported second-hand fabrics is destined for waste to landfills such as Kitezi. One solution to the bulk involves dropping the prices when sales drop. Beyond that, sellers are forced to simply discard their dead stock. Stock always goes bad as shelf life drops. For the place that has served Kampala for the past 20 years, Kitezi, there is a model that lessens the textile which finds its way to the site, but it's insufficient because a lot of the fabric waste doesn't meet the workers' appetite and simply remains within as waste.
Sasilo w'engoye teba mmotoka nti ereeta ngoye zokka. Ebijja biri mixed. Kati bw'osangamu lw'osobola okwambala kati ng'okukoleramu wano ng'olugjamu ng'olwoza. Kati nga luno lw'endimu nalufuna wiiki ewedde n'endwoza. Kati leero ndwambadde kuba wano tukkirizibwa kwambala bbulu. Olumu oyinza okuba ne ovulo ng'ekaddiye nogaaka bwe nfunayo ekya bbulu nja kyambala baleme kungoba kuba bwoba nga toyambadde bbulu ebiseera ebisinga batuyigganya nnyo.
Beyond this inefficiency, the landfill is being considered for a waste-to-energy facility in the near future. For the 4.4 megawatt biogas project, only organic waste is needed. Textile waste is therefore a misfit.
Feasibility studies show it's viable to have a biogas plant of about 4.4 megawatts at Chitezi, and using only conservatively the organic waste stream that is coming from the markets that are operated by KCCA. That means that you have a relatively cleaner organic waste, yeah? Probably no plastics in it. So I think that in the short term, when I say short term, I'm looking at probably in the next 2-3 years, we should be able to have this plant installed.
In a recent move, parties that include UK-based firm West Aid, Uganda's biggest tertiary institute, MTAC, Uganda Tailors Association, together with support from the Ministry of Trade plus NEMA, came together to expedite a 2-year pilot program called the Textile Waste Recycling Project.
The outcome is to basically build a business model, a sustainable business model out of waste textiles that involves a number of different Ugandan partners. We're also looking at building a textiles recycling hub as part of the project and trying to look at innovatively how we can reuse the waste textiles. It was really interesting. We've been meeting Ugandan stakeholders, Michelle and I. Yesterday we were at the Kitezi dump site where we understood that each day 26 tons of waste textiles is dumped.
Banking on that and its footprint across Africa, West Aid intends to leverage Kampala as ground zero for the pilot program before other needy regions can be considered.
It is a pilot project. We're focusing on recovering textiles from Owino Market primarily, working with Casita at Owino Market to trial approaches to recover materials that normally would end up in landfill. So as we understand it, a lot of traders know in Owino Market they import bales from overseas, but maybe only 60% of that bale can be used, but 40% is perhaps not exactly what they ordered, or it's not the right size. It's not the right size, or it's bad quality. There's a lot of issues we know with the textiles which are discarded. So often they end up in landfill or dumped in drainage ditches.
Fast fashion has also added to the bulk. To meet the latest demand, many retailers avail affordable and non-durable clothes. In the Textile Recycling Project, the country's biggest tertiary institute, MTAC, will lead the skilling and retooling, a hub to be set in Nakawa, its headquarters.
It's an opportunity that MTAC is going to work in partnership with Uganda Textile Association and West Aid based in the UK to implement the Uganda Circular Textile Project. And this Uganda Circular Textile Project is going to give an opportunity to people with used clothes, which they would have otherwise thrown into the environment with all its effects, brought on board to MTAC, because we are going to receive equipment as part of this project, to recycle these used clothes into something that is ready again for use.
There is further a big boost, first by the Ministry of Trade, then two, the National Curriculum Development Center. The former intends to fulfill a key industrial development provision, the Green Manufacturing Strategy, although slated to end just next year.
Now we are going to turn this so-called waste into another resource, whereby we are going to process it, recycling, and then get other byproducts. And this project aims at that. It is going to be a 2-year project. It is hosted at MTAC. MTAC is one of our institutions in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives.
Unlike the Trade Ministry, NEMA, NCDC seems a unique party in this pact, willing to integrate innovations into the curricula.
In a situation where they want us to support them in developing modules or curricula that can be formally recognized by the National Council for Higher Education, because at that level, they are at that level of NCHE. And so I want to give you our word that we shall definitely support the intervention.
Uganda Tailors Association, currently with over 20,000 members, will add mileage to the initiative.
The garmenting arrangement in our curriculum, it is there. It is also going to be the same, because we just recycle from a shirt to a bow tie. from a shirt to a kitchen glove, because women around here, you need kitchen gloves because you should have like 5 pairs in your house, which means the consumption, the whatever, the customers are within us.
Unlike food and other waste products that are biodegradable, electronic waste isn't, and fabrics in landfills would take as many as over 200 years.
Yeah, just as plastics, these biodegradable textile components, they can stay in the soil as long as 100+ years. You can imagine that time if you try to see clearly, that is a lot of time. But what I forgot to tell you is that there are some textile materials that are blended. They have blended fabrics. They have both natural and this one, the biodegradability of them will depend on the composition of that synthetic components. The more the synthetic components, the less likely it can be degraded. So even those blended fabrics now, they pose a very big challenge in our environment. And if you see critically, they have the largest, almost the largest composition of all the textile waste that we see in our country.
Meanwhile, there are less cultivated solutions, cottages. Although currently less dominant as it was in the past and working in silence, they are now moving closer to the battlefront. KCCA's Joel Mwesije informs how the waste resource practitioners have played a crucial role in making the collection insignificant.
Thanks to our informal sector that is involved in waste management, most of these textiles are actually picked out. They are upcycled. That's the technical term. The material is used by the guys that do furniture, the guys that do interior, what do you call it? The upholstery. If you've seen guys coming up with some nice cushions for cars and even furniture at home, nice bags. Some of those are taking out some of these textiles that have been wasted, but reusing them for these valuable products.
So Patra Artifacts is a simple industrial cottage seated in Zana and one of the waste resource players busy making use of textile offcuts.
If we buy like a meter or so, after we have scooped out the bigger parts, we make bags and whatever. You're going to see all of them on that side. So the remainders, we don't throw them away. So we use them for such small items. So these are earrings. Then we have these which are puff holders. There's elastic in here for the ladies. They hold their hair. Then these are called crotches. These are used for like if you're outdoor, even indoors, so you're served a cup of juice, whatever. You can either use this for covering on the glass so that you're not disturbed with the flies, or you put down the glass. Yeah.
Still, it's fully focused on making use of its position in the textile waste recycling project.
Shown with MTAC and Waste Aid, we're sure that we are ready to work with them because we have staff, we have machines, we have designers, so they can make any design out of any material. So as the aim of this is that we are going to use the second-hand clothes mainly, so we can transform them. If it is a shirt, we can transform it to anything else. If they are towels, we can transform them. We can make things like bed covers, baby showers, rugs, floor rugs. Yeah. So we are really ready to take off the project.
The green investment uses textile waste, wood, paper, and other materials to produce several products, bags, beauty accessories, among others. Sophie is the managing director. Even without academic honors, industrial art and design, for instance, for over 10 years, she's been busy fermenting ideas.
We have accessories, and accessories, of course, there are so many products that fall under it. That's why we have the headbands, the bangles, the earrings, the flowers, the ear bows. That's a different category. Then we have the clothing. That one is also different. That's when we come in with the baby clothes. We have the men's shirts. We have the boxers made out of vitenji. So that's also a different line. Then we have shoes from African fabric. That is footage wear. That's also another different department. Then we have now the bags come in different categories. That's when you have the school bags, the clutch bags, the tote bags, the jute bags. So there are different coin purses. There are different fashions. So with us, we have a lot of different items, over 100 designs.
And such ideas have materialized into new designs and products from a blend of waste and new materials.
It is paper. Then we have cotton. Then we have the plastics. We use that. Recycled glass. Yeah, there's recycled glass. Then we have the grains, the buttons. And then we have wood. That's what we normally use.
NEMA, the body tasked with oversight on environmental sanity, holds a slot in the pact. Through its circularity unit, although just 7 months old, it will be crucial in transitioning waste into gold.
But you are the right people we are to deal with, because we are all part of the environment. And I'm glad that even historians have come out and they are the ones promoting circularity. I am very happy actually and very amazed. I am going to find my work very easy because it will be preaching to the converted.
As the demand for technology becomes pertinent, with items such as televisions, radios, fridges, flat irons, to key utilities such as mobile phones, electronic waste is now another livid challenge, although linked to economic outlook.
Comparing the two burdens, the e-waste and waste from textiles, this waste, the textile waste generation is far greater than that of e-waste, because e-waste, it is highly determined by the socioeconomic status of the people in a given area. If you go to Kampala, you will find that e-waste are more in Kampala than some other rural districts in the country.
Uganda's population is currently dominated by youth. A big part of them needs communication, and smartphones are now complementary. A recent development seems to hold steam for a transformational journey. One of the biggest local telecom companies, Airtel, went into partnership with East Africa's first and biggest mobile trading and e-commerce company, Badili, based in Kenya. The idea is to recycle old smartphones that have reached their end of life. Badili's CEO, Risabla Wania, envisions unveiling 100,000 phones back into the market in the next 12 months.
Just about 100,000 phones in Ugandan hands in the next 16 months. So very excited for these partnerships. Remember, Badili phones are pre-loved. What pre-loved means is these phones were used at some point of time. These phones are now brought back by Badili as a business. We repair these phones, we refurbish these phones. These phones now look as good as new. The reason why consumers want to buy Badili phones is a phone that's as good as new now comes for half the price and has a 12 months warranty. So from the moment you buy a Badili phone, for the next 12 months, you just do not have to worry about anything about quality.
According to a recent quarterly report by Uganda Communications Commission, at the end of March last year, 34.3 million Ugandans had access to a mobile phone, up from 33.1 million the year before. As per the same month, 12.7 million people used smartphones, and the average expenditure was 8,951 shillings, with 75 active lines per 100 people. Still, 59 per 100 persons had an internet subscription. As for the smartphone network, the aim is to bridge the affordability gap.
One of the things which actually stops smartphone penetration in Uganda, or rather inhibits that to grow faster, is the affordability of the phones. So our partnership with Badili is one of the many initiatives that we are doing to bring affordable smartphones to the hands of the Ugandans. Now the specific thing about this particular partnership is that because they are refurbishing phones, you will have phones which will start as low as 250K, but it doesn't mean that a customer has to only buy the cheaper varieties of the handsets. You will even have access to some of the best phones in the world, right up to the iPhone or the best of the Samsungs.
The imbalance of necessity between textiles and electronics lays clear reasons for the dominance of the former compared to e-waste.
See that the burden of textile is far greater than the burden of e-waste. E-waste, these are waste generated from electronics. But if you move around Uganda, some area without those waste, especially rural areas, the composition are very low. But in rural area, both in rural area and urban areas, they have very high, almost the same burden, because, for example, people put on shoes everywhere in the country. People put on clothes in every corners of the country, and in the village there are people of low socioeconomic status. These people, they tend to work for second-hand clothes, and you know what I'm talking about here, because they are cheaper. Even in urban areas like Kampala, you find people, when you go to market today, you will see a lot of second-hand clothes, and some of them you put on them for only a few days.
Meanwhile, according to the Trade Ministry, the National Enterprise Corporation has undertaken a similar initiative to upcycle electronic waste.
We are now in an era of electronic digitalization phase, so we have quite a number of e-waste. And that one also, we have got another strong player. National Enterprise Corporation has established a very strong e-waste recycling facility here in Kampala and also in Nakasongola. So that is another achievement in that area. So as I told you, now all that are aiming at implementing our green manufacturing strategy.
As Kampala and other communities lean on the verge of waste collapse, the future is bound to lie in innovation poised to enforce sustainable management initiatives such as upcycling, recycling, and generally transforming waste into resource.
So as we come to the end of the conversation today in regard to circularity and how basically Uganda is tackling the waste burden, how can we keep the products such as textile and then the electronic devices into use, in that there is a limited, there is rather a bigger space within the shelf life, in that there is enough space for us to use products as much as we can without creating those the different waste streams. And basically the conversation is in regard to electronic and then textile waste. So the circularity question: can Uganda effectively implement a circular economy whereby products are used over and over again? We are basically talking about reusing the different products. So that's the conversation for today. But interestingly, this is something that won't come easily, because like I said earlier on, if at all Chitezi, one of the biggest landfills in this country that has been supporting Kampala and then the neighboring areas for the past 20 years, is no longer in position to keep the momentum. That means we need to look at alternatives. And one of the alternatives is the next landfill. That will be in Dundu, Mukono. So the same challenge may crop up because we are dealing with a growing urban setting, growing demand for consumer products, and then in return, there is the waste stream that comes off that. So basically, it's a question of how best can we implement the circularity factor within the consumption, within the production chains, so that we are limiting the impact on the ecosystems. So that will be an interesting area until we meet again.